Good day, and brace yourself, because this is one of those royal updates that makes people stop mid-scroll and say, hang on, what just happened? For years, Princess Eugenie was seen as Prince Andrew's emotional anchor, the daughter who stayed close when the spotlight turned harsh and unforgiving. And now, according to multiple reports, that bond has not just frayed, it has snapped completely. No phone calls, no visits, no quiet family check-ins, nothing. When insiders describe it as Brooklyn Beckham level estrangement, you know they are not talking about a polite cooling off period. This is a full emotional blackout, and it has stunned even seasoned royal watchers. Quick favor before we go any further, if you're enjoying this deep dive into royal drama with a sharp edge, hit that subscribe button and tap the notifications bell. It's free, it takes a second, and it helps Royal Top Stories keep bringing you the updates everyone else is whispering about. Thank you if you did. Now, back to the show. Here is where things get especially intriguing. Eugenie has reportedly not seen her father since Christmas, and she did not bring her husband or children to see him either. For someone long regarded as Andrew's most devoted supporter, that detail landed like a thunderclap. This was the daughter many believed would always stay, always defend, always bridge the gap. Instead, she appears to have quietly closed the door and locked it behind her. Sources say there has been no private communication at all, and that silence is doing more damage than any public statements ever could. And make no mistake, Andrew is said to be devastated, not mildly upset, not quietly disappointed, genuinely shaken. Losing public roles is one thing, but losing a child's contact cuts far deeper, especially when that child was once seen as your emotional safe harbor. Insiders say he feels isolated, stripped not just of titles and property, but of family connection. And that sense of loss is being felt at the exact moment his life is shrinking in very visible ways. Now, let us talk about the sister dynamic, because this is where the story gains layers. Princess Beatrice, by all accounts, is playing a far more cautious game. One source described her approach as walking a very fine line, and that line looks about as stable as a tightrope in a windstorm. She is reportedly trying to maintain some form of relationship with her father while staying firmly aligned with the wider royal family. That is not an easy balancing act, especially when every move is quietly scrutinized. Last month offered a telling example. Beatrice invited Andrew to the christening of her 11-month-old daughter, Athena, in London. He attended the church service, but notably, he did not join the family at the pub celebration afterwards. That detail speaks volumes. It suggests proximity without warmth, presence without integration, a polite nod rather than an embrace. How much interaction actually took place inside the church remains unclear, and sources have been careful not to elaborate. But the message was unmistakable. Beatrice has not cut him off, but she has not welcomed him back into the fold either. Eugenie, on the other hand, has taken a far more decisive stance, and this is where principle enters the conversation. Eugenie is a co-founder of the Anti-Slavery Collective, a charity focused on combating modern slavery and human trafficking. This is not a side project or a fashionable label. It has been central to her public identity for years. According to insiders, she is deeply angered by her father's continued refusal to apologize to the victims connected to Jeffrey Epstein. Andrew has consistently denied wrongdoing, and he has never shifted from that position. But for Eugenie, sources say, that stance is simply incompatible with the work she does and the causes she publicly champions. One insider put it bluntly, she cannot reconcile her advocacy with silence or defiance on this issue. In other words, you cannot stand on a global stage condemning exploitation while privately supporting someone who refuses accountability. publicly. To Eugenie, that contradiction appears to be a line she will not cross. So rather than argue, negotiate, or quietly endure, she has chosen distance, clean, firm, and uncompromising. And while this emotional rift is unfolding, Andrew's physical world is also shrinking. He has been forced to give up Royal Lodge, the Windsor property he occupied for years. His tenancy agreement reportedly ended in October, around the same time he was stripped of his remaining royal titles. Observers spotted a Windsor estate truck at a lockup near Bermondsey, fueling reports that his belongings are being moved into storage. It is not exactly the image of a man in control of his destiny. According to palace insiders, Andrew is expected to stay temporarily in a much smaller property at Sandringham until at least Easter. After that, he is set to move into Marsh Farm once renovations are complete. That property is understood to be significantly more modest than Royal Lodge, marking a sharp and symbolic change in lifestyle. For someone who once held a prominent position within the royal family, this downsizing is more than practical. It's deeply psychological. Now, take a step back and look at the timing. Loss of status, loss of home, and now loss of contact with a daughter who was once fiercely loyal. The last confirmed sighting of Andrew and Eugenie together was in December of last year. Since then, there have been no public appearances, no reported visits, and now, according to multiple outlets, no private communication either. One phrase keeps appearing again and again in reports: there is no contact at all. That line has become the defining summary of this situation. Andrew still has some contact with Beatrice, but even that relationship appears careful and limited. It is not warm, it is not regular, and it is certainly not uncomplicated. What we are witnessing is a family quietly redrawing its boundaries in real time, under the weight of public scrutiny and personal conviction. So here is where things stand right now. Eugenie has chosen distance and silence, guided by principle and public values. Beatrice is maintaining space without fully severing ties, attempting a careful if uncomfortable balance. And Andrew is facing a future that looks vastly different from the one he once expected, both publicly and privately. The rift is no longer subtle, and it is no longer private. It's out in the open, and it shows no sign of easing anytime soon. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think Princess Eugenie's decision was inevitable given her work and public stance? Or do you believe family ties should come before everything else, even in situations like this? Share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next update.